Welcome to the Fallen Tree. Today I'm going to attempt to make my first bowl. I've made a few other little things, but today I'm going to work on making a bowl for the first time. For this I'm going to be using this piece of wood right here. I got from a local wood turning club. It's a piece of pear, it says. So let me get it chucked up. Let's see what we can do with this thing. And this is really the first time I'm really turning anything on my new Laguna. So I want to see what it will do. So let's just start out saying this is not a how-to video. I haven't done a lot of wood turning, just starting to get into it. So if you're willing to bear with me and learn with me, this might be the video to watch. I make a lot of mistakes here, but the finished product comes out pretty good. So I started out with this slab of pear, mounting it between my drive center and my live center, just to kind of get it squared up a little bit and rounded. It looked quite oval when I started out. So as some of you guys can tell, I'm using carbide tools here. The reason I'm using the carbide tools is just because it's simple. And just starting out, simple's kind of good. So with my first lathe, it came with a set of kind of starter tools. Kind of generic, but they did their job. But with each one of those tools, there's a learning curve. And there's also the curve of learning how to sharpen your tools and having the right tools to do that. So there's pros and cons to using the carbide tools. The one pro I seen was that I can get 3 profiles to do just about everything. A round scraper, a square scraper, and a detail tool, which kind of looks like a diamond at the end. Another pro is they stay sharp for a while. You don't have to sharpen them. When you do go and finally get a dull blade, you can just turn it, and you get about 4 turns out of each one. So at this point in my turning process, I kind of got it rounded, got it a little bit shaped up, and looked over and seen the faceplate. I thought, man, why didn't I throw this on at the beginning? Could have saved myself a little bit of time by doing it at the beginning, because now I'm going to have to true it up again. But that's okay. That's what we're doing. We're learning here. So by putting it on this faceplate, I'll be able to shape the bottom and actually give it a recess so my chuck can accept it. So I'll take the time here, get my banjo set up and my tool rest. Now with these carbide tools, you want your tool to be level as you use it, and you want it to be about the center. Maybe slightly above center, if anything, but you don't want it below center. You'll see me doing this several times throughout the video as I'm setting up my tool rest. The other thing I'll do is I'll give it a spin by hand. As you can see, I forgot to do it this time, or felt that it wasn't in the way. But sometimes, if you don't watch out, your tool rest will interfere if your slab isn't round. So now that we got this on the faceplate, let's get it trued back up and we'll get going on this again. Now that I got this trued back up, my next thought is that I need to create some sort of tenon for the bottom of this. Maybe a foot or a base of the bowl as I'm doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and back off the tailstock and start working on the end of this bowl. So my thought here, as I'm at this stage, is that I want to create a foot for it to sit on, and I'm going to create a recessed tenon. That way my chuck can go on the inside, and I can still work on the outside of the bowl a little bit without the chuck interfering. So I created this recessed tenon. I put a little dovetail on the inside so my chuck would hook in, and hopefully I keep the bowl on the lathe. We'll see how that goes. So we'll take this off and we'll get it chucked up so we can start working on the inside of the bowl. Well, it's running fairly true. I'll true it up just a little bit more now that we got it on the chuck before I start turning the face. Now I just want to take a quick measurement and see how deep I can actually go. The last thing I want to do is make a useless funnel out of this bowl. Plus, I'm only planning on turning this probably about 80-90% just to get a shape and let it dry a little bit more. Okay, this is what it looks like at the beginning of my first day here. I did have an issue here where I've got a crack from my chuck. I'm gonna have to work through that issue. Either make the bowl smaller at this point, or I've got some CA glue that I think I'm gonna try to stick in there and glue it back together, and hopefully that's okay at the end here. Just got it roughed out right now. We're gonna let it dry a little bit. Some beautiful grain in this wood. And then we'll come back to it and take it down a little bit more. Finish it up. We'll see how it turns out. All right, here's that crack that we were talking about. And the reason that happened, because I had my jaws on the inside and I put too much pressure. So we're going to attempt to save this. I don't want to take any more out. I kind of like the shape of the bowl right now, so I'm going to bend this up a little bit, and I got some CA glue here. Since I've already got to go ahead and turn this again, I'm just going to use the CA glue, hopefully, and throw a clamp on there. Okay, so I didn't like the way that was looking. So I decided to go and put a board all the way across the top of it. The clamp. I think I'll get a better clamping job by doing it this way. So as I was saying earlier, I've been using mostly carbide tools, but I've recently got a bowl gouge and I want to try it out. So this is my first try with it. Unfortunately, it didn't go as expected. And I caught the edge and broke off the entire bottom tendon. But the part that I glued stayed. So I guess that's a good thing. So it's time to adapt. So I took some scrap and made a quick jam chuck, I guess you'd call it. And I'm using a piece of rubber just to help with slippage. So this isn't a real tight fit, so I've got to kind of adjust it to make sure it turns kind of right. One thing I wish I would have done when I was working on the inside of the bowl would be true up that edge. Because it wasn't straight, it made it look like it wobbled more than what it actually did. So this is going to end up making a shorter bowl now. And I'm actually going to make a tendon on the outside, I guess, this time. And try it that way, see if it holds better. Apparently I put too much pressure on the chuck on the inside, I'm guessing, which caused it to crack. Well, we'll give this another try. This time I made a regular tendon. We'll put it on there. It's going to take a little bit of adjusting, I think, just to get it running square again. And again, you can see on that top, I wish I would have trued that up because that would have made it a lot easier. The other thing I want to check is I had to take out a lot of material. So I think I'm getting close to what I actually want my bowl to be without going through. And from the tendon to about this point, it's about the same thickness. So I'm going to mark that, and it's about 1/4 of an inch or so thick right now. So I got a little bit I can play with, but I got to be careful. So we'll get this trued up here and give it another shot. So this is where I was saying I wish I would have trued up this edge to begin with. That way when I put it on the chuck, I can see my eye a little bit better if it's true or not. Otherwise, when it was uneven, it just looked like it wobbled even if it didn't. So I had to look at the back side rather than the front, straight edge. So we'll go back and give it another try. I started out here with my carbide tip. I was like, let me try that bowl gouge again. Just got it. Want to see how it does. And I didn't tighten up the chuck enough when I realigned it. So it again went flying across the room. This time it didn't do a lot of damage. But we live and we learn, and we won't make these mistakes again. Important thing is we just learn from our mistakes. And taking up a new hobby like this, we're bound to make a lot of them. That's the one good thing about wood, is it's very adaptable. So, I'm going to get to shaping this. I have the mark show me where my thin part is. And I want to put a little bit of beading on this bowl. So if I take home to the wife just a plain, straight bowl, she's going to be like, well, you could have done this, and you could have done that. And she's right. So the only way we're going to learn is by practicing and doing it. Worst case scenario, we start off with a new blank. Finally was able to put that new bowl gouge to use. It's going to take a little bit of time learning how to use a new tool. But with a little bit of practice, I'll get the hang of it. Okay, here's what it looks like before sanding. Had a few issues doing this. Got a couple like chatter marks like right here and here we're gonna sand out. But for the most part, for my first bowl, despite all the hiccups I had, I think it's looking pretty good. So let's get to sanding. Okay, I'm not going to bore you with all the sanding and showing you every little detail, but I started out with an 80 grit, went to a 120, then a 240, 320, and worked my way all the way down to 600. After getting done with the sanding on the inside of the bowl, I use Yorkshire grit as like a pre-finish. Just a little dab will do you. Then after adding it, I use the clean section of my towel and kind of wipe the excess out, buffing it as I did it. Then from there, I put on a friction polish. It's got a little bit of walnut oil, a little bit of wax, and some shellac to give it the shine that it needs. And let me tell you, it turns out beautifully. So from there I turned it around. I got a little fine tuning on the bottom from where I had it chucked up. I want to kind of clean up those lines, get it sanded, and then I followed the same process with the Yorkshire grit and the friction polish. When I cleaned up the bottom, it left just a little nub. So I'm going to take my chisel and kind of slowly work that out of there. This is a nice sharp chisel, and it's cleaning it up pretty cleanly. From there, I'll go through my stages of sandpaper, clean it up. We'll add a finish to it, and you won't even know it's there. So, here's the finished product. Let me know what you think. Quite a few learning curves on this, but for the most part, I'm really happy with it. So, if you enjoyed this video, like it, subscribe, share it with your friends. And thanks for joining my journey here at the Fallen Tree. Till next time, my friends.